Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to continue our reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter number 19, verse number 157 onwards. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhate girim yat kripa tamham bande Shri Gurum Deen Tarenam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. ताते माली यत्न करी करे आवरण अपराध हस्तीर याइछे ना है udgama. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. While the bhakti creeper is growing, the devotee must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. In this way, he will not give the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu said, Asat Sanga Tyaga, A Vaishnav Achar. The first business of a Vaishnav is to give up the company of non-devotees. A so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotees, he must associate with non-devotees, asat sangha. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in, that is, by following the regulative principles and associating with pure devotees. Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna consciousness society, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master, and if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instructions concerning the regulative principles and chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. By one's mental concoctions, one falls down. By associating with non-devotees, one breaks the regulative principle and is thereby lost. In the Updeshamrita, second of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, it is said, Atyahara parayashischa prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangash chalolyam cha shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary, or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to attain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. Verse number 158. Kintu yadi latar sange uthe upashakha bhukti mukti vancha yat asankhya tar lekha. So vancha means desires, which we always say vancha kalpatarubhyascha in the morning. Vancha is desires. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited, and we know that we are all in a material body which is made out of mode of material natures, and on top of that in the material world all the time. Verse number 159. Nishiddhachara kuti nati jiva himsana labh puja pratishtadi yat upashakha gana. Some unnecessary creepers growing within the bhakti creepers are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection, diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. Purport: there is a certain pattern of behavior described for those actually trying to become perfect in our Krishna consciousness movement, we advise our students not to eat meat. So Srila Prabhupada is instructing us in the purport not to gamble, not to engage in illicit relationships, and not to indulge in intoxication. People who indulge in these activities can never become perfect. Therefore, these regulative principles are for those interested in becoming perfect and going back to Godhead. Kuti nati or diplomatic behavior cannot satisfy the Atma, the soul. It cannot even satisfy the body or the mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealing should always be straightforward and approved by the Vedic authorities. If we treat people diplomatically or dupliciously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. So we become like the present day politicians. And we all know that. Jiva Himsana refers to the killing of animals or to envy of other living entities. The killing of poor animals is undoubtedly due to envy of those animals. The human form is meant for the understanding of the Krishna consciousness, athato Brahma Jigyasa, for inquiring about the Supreme Brahman. In the human form, everyone has a chance to understand the Supreme Brahman. The so-called leaders of human society do not know the real aim of human life and are therefore busy with economic development. This is misleading. Every state and every society is busy trying to improve the quality of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. This human form of life is meant for more than these four animal principles. So we can just imagine 50 years onwards, I guess when these purports were written, the situation has become more dire for all of us. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending are the problems found in the animal kingdom, and animals have solved these problems without difficulty. Why should human society be so busy trying to solve these problems? The difficulty is that people are not educated to understand this simple philosophy. They think that advancement of civilization means increasing sense gratification. There are many religious propagandists who do not know how the ultimate problems of life can be solved, and they also try to educate people in a form of sense gratification. This is also Jiva Himsana. Real knowledge is not given, and religionists mislead the general populace. As far as material profits are concerned, one should know that whatever material profit one has must be abandoned at the time of death. Unfortunately, people do not know that there is life after death. Therefore, mundane people waste their time amassing the material profit which has to be left behind at the time of death. Such profit has no eternal benefit. Similarly, adoration by mundane people is valueless because after death, one has to accept another body. Material adoration and titles are decorations that cannot be carried over to the next body. In the next life, everything is forgotten. So everything is started on a clean slate. We all know that. All these obstructions have been described in this verse as unwanted creepers. They simply present obstacles for the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata. One should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things. Sometimes these unwanted creepers look exactly like the Bhakti creeper. They appear to be of the same size and the same species when they are packed together with the Bhakti creeper, but in spite of this, the creepers are called Upashakha, or the sub-branches. In English, we would say. A pure devotee can distinguish between the Bhakti creeper and a mundane creeper, and he is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate. Verse 160. Seka jala pana upashakha badi yaya stabdha hena moola shakha badite na pai. If one does not distinguish between the Bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the Bhakti creeper is curtailed. Purport: if one chants the Hare Krishna mantra while committing offenses, these unwanted creepers will grow. One should not take advantage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra for some material profit, as mentioned in verse 159. Nishiddhachara kutinati jiva himsana labha puja pratishtadi yata upashakha gana, the one which we read before this one. The unwanted creepers have been described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to the sense gratification. One may also desire freedom from material bondage like the Mayavadis, or one may become attached to the Yoga Siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called Siddhi Labhi. lobhi, greedy, or material perfection. One may also be victimized by diplomatic or crooked behavior, or one may associate with women for illicit relationships. One may make a show of devotional service like the Prakrita Sahajyas, or one may try to support his philosophy by joining some caste or identifying himself with a certain dynasty, claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo-guru or so-called spiritual master. One may become attached to the four sinful activities, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat-eating. Or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong to a mundane caste or creed. One may think this is Hindu Vaishnava and this is a European Vaishnava. European Vaishnavas are not allowed to enter the temples. In other words, one may consider Vaishnava in terms of birth, thinking one a Brahman Vaishnava, another a Shudra Vaishnava, another a Mlecha Vaishnava, and so on. One may also try to carry out a professional business by means of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. Also, one may become a cheap Vaishnava by trying to chant in a secluded place for material adoration, or one may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees concerning one's philosophy or spiritual life, or one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. All these are pitfalls of personal sense gratification just to cheat some innocent people. One makes a show of advanced spiritual life and becomes known as sadhu, mahatma, or religious person. All this means that the so-called devotee has become victimized by all these unwanted creepers, and that the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata, has been stunted. Verse 161. Prathame upashakhara kare chedana tabe moola shakha badi yai vrindavana. As soon as the intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. Purport: if one is misled by unwanted creepers and is victimized, he cannot make progress back to the Godhead. Rather, he remains within the material world and engages in activities having nothing to do with the pure devotional service. Such a person may be elevated to the higher planetary systems, but because he remains within the material world, he is subjected to the threefold material miseries. Verse 162. Prema phala paki pade mali aswadya lata avalambi mali kalpa vriksha paya. When the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna in Golok, Vrindavan. Verse 163. Tahan se kalpa vrikshera kare sevana sukhe prema phala rasa kare aswadana. That the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to the wish-fulfilling tree. With great bliss, he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. Purport: the word tahan indicates that in spiritual world one can taste the juice of the fruit of the devotional service and thus become blissful. Verse 164. Eta parama phala parama purushartha yanra age trina tulye chari purushartha. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Golok Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life, and in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are very insignificant achievements. Purport: the highest achievement attained by the Jnanis or impersonalists is becoming one with the Supreme, generally known as moksha, liberation. The highest achievements of the yogis are the 8 material perfections such as anima, laghima, and prapti, yet these are nothing compared to the eternal bliss of the devotee who returns back to the Godhead and tastes the fruit of devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. The material perfections, even up to the point of liberation, are very insignificant in comparison. Therefore, the pure devotee is never interested in such things. His only interest is in perfecting his devotional service to the Lord. The pleasure of the impersonalist monist philosophers is condemned in the following verse, which is also found in Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī's Lalita Madhava. Verse 165. Riddha siddhi vraja vijayita satya dharma samadhir brahmanando gurur api chamatkaryatyai evatavat yavat premanam madhuripu vashikar siddhau sadhinam gandho api antah karana sarani panthatam na prayati. As long as there is not the slightest fragrance of pure love of Krishna, which is the perfect medicinal herb for controlling Lord Krishna within the heart, the opulences of the material perfections known as siddhis, the Brahminical perfections, satya, samadhi, tiksha, and so on, the trance of the yogis and the monastic bliss of Brahman all seem wonderful for men. Purport: there are different types of perfections known as siddhi, vraja, and also the perfections of achieving Brahminical qualifications, yogic trance, and merging into the Supreme. All these material perfections are certainly very attractive for a mundane person, but their brilliance exists only as long as one does not take to the devotional service. Devotional service can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller of all universal affairs. The 5 rasas or the mellows in the transcendental world are practiced by inhabitants of Golok Vrindavan in neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love, which is a Shantaras, Dasyaras, Sakhyaras, Vatsaliras, and the Madhuriras. All these please the Lord so much that he is controlled by the devotees. For instance, Mother Yashoda was so advanced in devotional service that Krishna agreed to be controlled by her stick. In other words, the 5 principal mellows are so great and glorious that they are able to control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the material world, however, the so-called siddhis or perfectionists manifest their brightness only as long as one is not interested in devotional service. In other words, the perfection of the karmis, jnanis, yogis, and other remains attractive only as long as one does not come to the point of devotional service, which is so great and significant that it can control the Supreme Controller, Krishna. Verse 166. Shuddha Bhakti Haite Haya Prema Utpanna Ataiva Shuddha Bhaktira Kahiye Lakshana. When one is situated in pure devotional service, he develops love of Godhead. Therefore, let me describe some of the symptoms of pure devotional service. Purport: in the Bhagavad-Gita 18.55, it is said, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yash chashmi tatvatah. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth unless he takes to the devotional service. So thank you for joining. We'll continue with our reading next time. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Nityananda Triyodashi Ki Jai, which is being celebrated in the European region. I think in India it is being celebrated tomorrow. So hope you all have blissful day today. Nityanand Mahajan ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Gosvāmī ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.